Hey all! How are you all doing out there today? Hopefully you're doing well and ready for another creepy story from graveyarddance.com. Each week, we try to mix it up a bit and bring you a variety of all types of strange, spooky, scary or just downright weird stories that are almost always based on true events, told with the most accuracy that we can with the information we collect. Sometimes it's true crime, others it's ghosts or hauntings. Sometimes even alien abductions. This week's story though is about a beautiful young woman who had always dreamed of becoming a singer and had just released an album and was making that dream come true when tragedy came in the strangest of ways. So far, she's the only known person to ever be killed by an animal she truly loved and thought was a beautiful animal, a pack of wild coyotes. I wish I could play even a snippet of her music, but due to copyright reasons, we can't. That said, you should look up some of her work and buy it if you can. She had a voice of an angel. Taylor was born to parents Ray and Emily Luciao on August 27, 1990 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Although she was raised in the Roncesvalles neighborhood of Toronto, she was fascinated by music from a young age and loved most types of music, but folk music was her passion. By the time she was a teenager, she was already performing with her own band at local fairs. She also loved theater and had graduated from the Etobicoke School of the Arts, but her main goal and passion was always music. She knew if she wanted to make it, she would have a better chance if she had a name that people could easily pronounce and spell, so she changed her stage name to Taylor Mitchell. She released a 4-song EP in 2007 and her first full-length album in May of 2009. It was called For Your Consideration. When doing research for this video, I checked it out on YouTube and loved what I heard. I quickly subscribed to her channel just out of love and respect and found a place to buy the CD. I actually love every single track on it, with the track called Secluded Roads being my favorite. Before we go on, I really hope you'll take the time to subscribe to her channel and like her videos. I'll leave a link down below. Taylor had a few very talented Canadian performers on her debut album, including Justin Rutledge, Susie Vinnick, John Dinsmore, and Michael Johnston of the Skydiggers. The album received a positive review from Exclaim, with Eric Tom, which is a Canadian music publisher, describing her as definitively old school, if not world weary, while Now Toronto described it as sounding like it comes from someone of a completely different generation. I have to say I agree. Right after the release of her debut album, Taylor was invited to perform at the Winnipeg Folk Festival. Most everyone absolutely loved her and praised her work. She soon went on tour of Atlantic Canada, also called the Atlantic Provinces, which is the region of eastern Canada comprising the provinces located on the Atlantic coast, excluding Quebec. The 4 provinces are New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and Labrador, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. Taylor was well on her way to stardom and having a blast. Not only did she have quite a career ahead of her, but she had also just gotten a new car which she was excited about. To add further joy to the way things were going, on October 23rd, just a few days before her tragic death, she was nominated for a Canadian Folk Music Award as Young Performer of the Year. Her last concert was in Lucasville, near Halifax. There were 2 days before her scheduled concert in Sydney. She would never make it. Taylor loved nature and was an environmentalist and loved animals. She loved being outdoors and enjoyed long secluded walks where she could enjoy watching the wildlife and outdoor scenery. Never in her wildest dreams could she ever have imagined when she started her nature walk, how it would end. On October 27, 2009, in the early afternoon hours, a couple going in the opposite direction passed her near the beginning of the Skyline Trail in Petitton. For an unknown reason, she doubled back and was headed back towards her car. Perhaps she had already crossed paths with the coyotes. Soon, a couple named Mike and Gail encountered 2 coyotes coming toward them on the way to their own car. Mike took a photo of it and later showed it to Brent Patterson, who works at Trent University as an Environmental and Life Sciences Graduate Program Professor and Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources Research Scientist. He was astounded by the lack of fear of the coyotes as they walked toward the couple. Mike and Gail was lucky enough to escape with their lives that day. Sadly, Taylor would not. About 5 or 6 minutes later, they heard a young woman screaming and set out to find out where it was coming from. Although they couldn't find the source of the screams, they reported the incident at a telephone box at the car park. When they received the call, both the park's resource conservation supervisor, Eric Muntz, and the Nova Scotia Department of Natural Resources Wildlife Resources Manager, Michael O'Brien, thought that maybe someone was attacked by a black bear at first, but they soon found out it was a pack of coyotes. Another group of hikers who had heard about the screams were also looking for the source of the terror when they stumbled upon Taylor's personal items. It didn't look good. They first found her keys, then a small knife that she had most likely used in an attempt to save herself. From there, they found torn pieces of bloody clothing and then pools of blood. They came upon an outdoor washroom where there was blood all over the door. All of a sudden, they heard a low growling sound coming from some nearby trees where they found 2 coyotes standing over Taylor, growling aggressively. 3 of the hikers kept trying to run the coyotes off, but they didn't want to budge. Finally they got them to step back so they could surround Taylor and try to stop some of her bleeding. A Royal Canadian Mounted Police came and shot at the coyotes when they finally scattered. Although Taylor was alive when she was found and able to speak to her rescuers, she died a short time later due to her extensive injuries and severe blood loss. She was just 19 years old. Taylor was bitten over most of her body, with the most serious wounds to her leg and head. Paramedics took her to Sacred Heart Community Health Center in Shottacombe, where she was then airlifted to Queen Elizabeth II Health Sciences Center in critical condition. At the hospital, she died of blood loss. She was laid to rest at Greenwood Cemetery in Owen Sound, Ontario. There was all kinds of speculation as to why the coyotes would attack in such a way. There had never been another known case like it in the world. Why now? And why to such a sweet and loving person? Some thought maybe she had tried to feed them. Feeding a wild animal is never a good idea. Perhaps she had disturbed a den of their young. Maybe they had bred with larger, more aggressive wolves. Maybe they even had rabies. Who knows? What was known was that Taylor loved nature and in particular, animals. Her mother begged officials not to kill the coyotes because she knew that Taylor would not have wanted that. "We take a calculated risk when spending time in nature's fold, it's a wildlife's terrain," she wrote. When the decision had been made to kill the pack of coyotes, I clearly heard Taylor's voice say, "Please don't, this is their space." She wouldn't have wanted their demise, especially as a result of her own. Despite that, a few hours later, they killed 6 coyotes near where the attack happened. All but 2 were found with Taylor's blood on their fur. The other 2 were pack mates to the other 4 though. Just a few weeks after Taylor's attack, another couple were nearly attacked when a coyote came up aggressively behind a hiking couple. They had a walking stick and hit it in the head, which scared it off. 10 months later, a 16-year-old girl who was camping with her family at the same location was bitten twice in the head. In April of 2010, Nova Scotia put a $20 bounty on all coyotes, but strangely enough, it didn't apply to coyotes in the park. Either way, it did very little good. Some good came of the tragedy though. As a memorial, Mitchell's mother established the Taylor Mitchell Legacy Trust, which has a partnership with the David Suzuki Foundation. The trust promotes community outreach for musical and creative expression as well as educating on habitat preservation, the balance between human and wildlife interaction in both natural and urban settings, and safety precautions. I think Taylor would have really loved that. If you haven't checked out her music, I hope you will. It's good stuff, I promise. Hope you liked this week's story. Thanks for watching. Till next time.